Hello?
JJ, it's Bob Iger.
Oh, hey, Bob. Hey, we're doing really great things here, and there's a lot of love and
Yeah, shut up, JJ. Listen, there were leaked photos from the set, and it's going to wind up costing me money because people aren't going to go see this movie if they're seeing these leaked photos.
Yeah, but, we have a lot of passion and heart, and there's a lot of great things going on here, and the passion and the love, and, the flair and everything, and we're all excited, and it's great.
Yeah. Do me a favor. Protect that set. I don't want to see this movie ruined for my profits. I mean, our audience.
Yeah, I completely understand that, Bob. We have a great cast. Everyone's back. And it's episode 9, and we're all back and loving it, and the passion and the love, and it's coming from a great place. And
listen, I trust you. That's why I forced them to give this franchise back to you.
Okay, and
all right, look, I've had enough of this. Just make a great movie, make me a lot of money, and that's the end of it. And JJ, listen, I'm sorry. I haven't eaten yet today.
Oh, it's fine, Bob. Everything's gonna be great, and we're gonna make a lot of money, and it's a passion project. It's like an indie film, and
just make me money. Bye.
If you're listening to this broadcast, you're a part of the resistance.
Welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. My name is John Hoey. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully we're making your Monday a good time, because sometimes we get the Monday blues, but we are so excited to be back after our first extended break in a very long time. I just became a father, so I'm very excited about that. My little guy's upstairs, hopefully sleeping as we get through this here today. But we have a great show in store for you. A lot to talk about. Episode 9 stuff, solo stuff, your questions, a lot of stuff. So joining me today on the program, as always, you know him. It is Mr. Myra Trunks, James Bainey. What's up, man?
I really want to ask you how it has been the last week being a father, but I have to ask you a more important question. What is your favorite game show?
It has to be all time. Has to be The Price is Right. But like I left when Bob Barker left, kind of like how some Star Wars fans left when George Lucas left.
Yeah.
But way less annoying. I'm just a big Plinko fan. I love the wheel. I love the showcase. I love bidding $1. The putt-putt. The little mountain climber guy. Actual retail price. All that stuff. I just always grew up on that whenever I would visit my grandparents and stuff. What about you?
I think mine's Family Feud.
I do like Family Feud too. Yeah.
I think
favorite host? All-time favorite host.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have like a...
Do you know all the hosts ever?
No, for sure. I know that like the dude who was on Home Improvement did it for a little while, but other than that,
Richard Karn.
I only know Steve Harvey. I'm
going to try to name all the hosts right now.
Go for it.
See if I can do it. All right. So Richard Dawson, Louis Anderson.
Oh, that's right. He did do it.
Richard Karn.
You're not. I couldn't even grade you if you're wrong.
Peterman
right.
from Seinfeld. What's his name? John something. John O'Hurley.
Sure. Let's go with that.
Steve Harvey. And who's the short guy who he committed suicide? Ray something.
Dude, you're beyond me. I said my favorite was Family Feud, and you're like blowing my trivia knowledge away on it.
Survey says I nailed it though.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see.
Dude,
Louis Anderson. Ding, ding, ding. Top pick.
I'll think of it later. It was Ray something.
Yeah.
Damn, I forget his name. Anyway.
Ray Park.
Yes, this is our Star Wars podcast. Yeah, it's Ray Park hosted the Family Feud. That's right. Maul himself. We are going to talk a little bit about Maul later, but how you been, man? What's going on?
I've been doing good. I don't know, man. Not a whole lot. We had like a company picnic thing. We had Labor Day, so we had like a family hangout sesh. That was cool. I hope everybody
Ray
had
Combs.
a good time.
Ray Combs.
Greg,
I think that was his
Greg Holmes.
name. Ray Combs. I think that was
Ray
his name.
Combs, like his
Yeah,
hair.
that guy.
Okay, I found
Yeah.
this.
Oh, Siri. So yeah, I wanted to ask you, where's Lacey, man?
Lacey is actually at her work, full-time job. She's at
Lacey is crushing
Raccoon
Rose
City Comic Con.
right? Raccoon City Comic Con, yeah. Yeah, Lacey's pretty much single-handedly responsible for bringing all the Star Wars to those events that she works at. So she's getting to check out and play with a lot of cool stuff while you and I are here just talking about game shows. So there you go.
Or she has, because this came out on Monday. She
Yeah,
has already
true.
done those things.
She's already done those things. But Lacey should be back with us next Monday. You can find her obviously on Twitter at Lacey Gillerin. But James, what do you say we get the show cracking and we can start off with some poll results? We asked you guys, will Luke Skywalker have over or under 2 scenes in Star Wars Episode 9? And 65% of you said over 2 scenes. Only 11% said under, aka 1. And 24% said he will have exactly 2 scenes. James Bainey, where'd you vote on this one?
I said 2.
Exactly 2.
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to... I mean, who knows, really, honestly. You just kind of got to guess. I think that the most likely is probably the over. And it's also kind of like, what is considered 2 scenes? Like, we might go into the movie and might, like, split hairs over, like, no, that's the same scene. That's the same scene. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I've kind of stood the ground on, I think he's not going to be as prominent as most people think he is. Like, when you say, like, he's coming back, well, like, Yoda came back, you know? He just has, like, one really good, significant scene in the movie. But I think that 2 sounds right, especially since, like, most people can't decide if he's going to show up to Kylo or if he's going to show up to Rey, you know? So, I don't know, maybe both. But we'll see. I just thought, 2 was probably the answer that I feel is likely to be correct, but then over is probably actually going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah. It's definitely not going on the Episode 9 challenge because it's going to be one of those argumentative ones if we try to do that.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that for a poll. But we have a best comments by one of our good fans, Trash Buddha, and he's kind of with you here. He said 2 seems like a good number, but I think he'll play a major role. So he's not really with you, actually, but he said 2 seems like a good number. He said, I think TLJ, The Last Jedi, showed us how incredibly powerful Luke is, and I think in Episode 9 we're going to see more of his power. So Trash Buddha thinks we're going to see Luke doing things even more than what Yoda did in The Last Jedi. I'm kind of leaning more... I'm on the over. I think it's going to be more than 2 scenes, including like a last Force Ghost wave at the end type of thing like they did in Return of the Jedi. But yeah, we'll see. All we know is we're getting Luke back in 9, though, so that's cool. But yeah, those are the polls, and it is time for the Resistance Report this week. I know we got a bunch of stuff to talk to, so let's fire it up. What's going on, James?
It's the Resistance.
Casting, and more casting. It seems like we took a little bit of a break, and they're just like, oh, and also all these people are going to be in Episode 9. So we've got Dominic Monaghan coming in from Lost and Lord of the Rings, I think, are his 2 biggest things. So then we got Matt Smith, who has Doctor Who fame. He was a doctor for one of the seasons and a very well-respected one. Kind of helped to bring the show back into popular demand, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really a Doctor Who fan. And then we also got Greg Grunberg, which wasn't like a big like official announcement. It was just kind of assumed by fans, and then he just kind of like slipped in there and was like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting ready to go do my stuff, and I'm going to be there. So, yeah, I'm definitely coming back. We also had a little bit of a talk about Oscar Isaac and Domhnall Gleeson. They spoke briefly about what they thought the movie was going to be. And we've got this stuff before, like John Boyega saying, oh, it's going to be all out war. You know what I mean? And that really seemed to kind of carry over into these little quippets that they threw out there as well. So, so let's go back real quick to the casting. What do you think about these guys? Do you think these are good additions to episode 9? Do you think it's smart to bring in these people? Are they going to bring something important to the role, in your opinion?
I can't speak on Matt Smith, kind of like you, because I never got into Doctor Who, and I don't know too much else about what he's done. I've just gone by what people are speculating about him and saying about him, and so I'm just going by what people are saying pretty much at this point. So I got to reserve my thoughts on him. But Dominic Monaghan, I like it. This is gonna sound weird, but I even liked his role, however brief it was, in the Wolverine origin movie. He played that guy who could like control the electricity and that kind of thing. I thought he had a great scene with Victor, where Victor went to go kill him, and he said like, I'm not afraid to die and that kind of stuff. Like, the guy has acting chops, even in a small role like that. And I know a lot of people love him in Lord of the Rings too, but I'm very curious to see what type of role he's going to play in episode 9. But I think he's the type of guy who can really bring it. And obviously JJ has at least some sort of history and connection to the guy with Lost, so he believes in him and kind of trusts that he's going to kind of bring it in this episode. And the Grunberg thing reminds me of like, hey, does anybody care about me? He's like, guess what? I'm coming back in episode 9. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think a lot of the like fans that are reading the comics and stuff though care that character is returning, because I think he was one of those questions coming out of Last Jedi, like, where was Black Squadron? You know, where were these people? Yeah. So I think that's important to some people, but I understand your like larger perspective of that. Let's Dominic Monaghan. So this guy is in Lord of the Rings, and surely, you know, he did a fine job there. But you're going to see a lot of similarities between both of these. I like Lord of the Rings. That's fine. It's not like he's a major important role in that. So it's kind of hard to judge him there. He was in the X-Men movie, and I don't like any of the X-Men movies. He was in Lost, and I never saw Lost, so I think that's how a lot of people know him, besides the thing. He was in the Eminem Rihanna video for some reason. I don't know.
That's
probably
why they got him.
Eminem likes Lost. Yeah.
That's why they got him.
That's why they got him. So I guess my thing is I just don't know a whole lot about him, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I guess I think he's probably okay. He'll do his job well.
Okay.
But the other one is Matt Smith for me. I think this one's a little bit trickier because I don't watch Doctor Who, and I know people really like him, but when I see it, I just go, yeah, I don't like any of that.
I'm the same way. I was never interested or drawn to it.
Yeah, it looks bad to me. And so then I'm like, okay, but people really liked this guy. What else can he do? And it's like Terminator Genesis. I'm like, no, that was awful. Not to blame a bad movie on one actor, you know, but
dude, he played Skynet. He was literally Skynet.
So like, I thought he was going to have a bigger role. He was like on all the magazines. He's like barely even in the movie. And then the movie's awful. And then Pride and Prejudice and Zombies didn't get like a good review. I'm skipping over a couple. He was recently Charlie Manson. Okay.
Emilia Clarke was in that Terminator movie too, and we liked her in Solo.
That's a good point. Good point. Yeah. So I don't know. So that's my thoughts on Matt Smith. But sure, go ahead. Like I think I went on record when Dominic got announced that I don't think this guy's going to be in this movie much at all. I think he's going to be like a glorified cameo. He's going to be a guy who has a couple lines in the movie. And
like I think Lorsan Tekka cameo?
For sure. Like that's like somebody, exactly. They're saying, dude, episode 7 is going to be great. They're bringing in Max von Sydow. He's going to be in the movie. And it's like he's got this one cool role, like, and he has this scene, but that's all that it is.
Dude, what
I think
if a
Matt Smith is
Monaghan
probably going to be the same way.
What if a Monaghan plays like a disciple of like Max von Sydow's, and he's like, I was here to carry out his, something if something happened to him, or like, and he does make a brief appearance, but he's like one of those people that just like believes in the Jedi, and he just like pops in and gives them something they may need, and then just goes off and into the sunset. Like you're saying, it could be a brief character, but it could be impact. We don't know.
I hear you, but at the same time, I don't think that like being a follower of the Church of the Force and him coming in and doing something like that just would feel out of place, I think. Even though I have no clue what they're going to do for the movie, I'm still kind of like, I don't know. I just don't see that like meeting the pacing. Like, all right, guys, there's a war going to happen. We're all ready for the war. Thank you for this. We'll use it as good luck. All right, cool. All right, we're going to go fight the war now. I got to go meet up with Kylo Ren. Like, I don't know. It just seems, but I don't know. Like I said, I think they're going to have their roles and do their things, and I think it's going to be all good. What about the Oscar Isaac, Domhnall Gleeson stuff? You got any comments on that? I felt that all the stuff was very like generic, like stock. Oh man, there's going to be wars, and there's going to be stars. And well,
it's like every time you see, like, especially this stuff, being a guy who's been in a popular band, like anytime I see an old band that I used to really like, and they're like, we're coming out with a new record and this is our best record yet, like it's kick ass, like everyone's gonna love it. It's like, what do you expect Oscar Isaac to say? Like, it's gonna be low action, okay, it's gonna be subtle, and it's going to be okay. No, he's going to be like, it's all out war. It's crazy. Like, it's going to be like this, like that, like that. So I get that hype stuff. The Domhnall Gleeson thing is just kind of funny. He's just saying, like, I don't want to reveal this movie's plot in my sleep. I don't want to be on a plane and start mumbling about, oh, God, Hux dies and Hux got killed. I just thought that was kind of funny. And it just shows that we're all just itching for information from these guys. So I don't take much from that. It's just kind of entertaining.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we got some other stuff coming up. Another story. Solo, a Star Wars story. You've seen it. You've heard of it.
Yeah.
It's coming up. It's getting ready to be released onto Blu-ray, and the marketing leading up to this is, hey, maybe you haven't seen the movie, or maybe you haven't seen it in a while, so here's a scene. Here's another scene. Here's another scene. And they basically, so far, as of today, they've given us 2 full scenes from the movie, which is the train heist on the Convex, and they also gave us the ending scene with Darth Maul and Kira talking back and forth, which is kind of unexpected considering that's like the end of the movie. And then they also gave us a deleted scene and a few like little trailer sneak peeks at other deleted scenes, but they gave us a good full scene of a foot race, trying to Han and Kira trying to run away and get away from the bad guys on Corellia. So I thought these were cool. Again, like I see that foot chase and I go, yeah, I got that in the movie though. They're in a rush. They're trying to get away. We just did like a 5-minute car chase. There's dogs in this other scene, so we get the dogs. Like I just felt like I understand why this is deleted, because it's a good like 2.5-3 minute clip that doesn't really tell us anything more about the story, because we already know that they love each other and we already know that they're trying to get away.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree a little bit. I get the overdoing it factor, and like we already got that aspect. But I loved that scene because I love anytime there is hiding from the bad guys, because I always feel like a part of it, like, oh, we're all, even in a theater, we're all hiding. And they even do the camera angles where you're looking out from that barrel and they're walking past you and you're like, I'm hiding too, you know? But it also gives us and the storytellers of the movie a cheat, because it gives them kind of like an instant pause on the action and lets those two characters have an isolated moment together to kind of give us more character development into their relationship in a cheap but honest way. And you see Han and Kira there, and you see Han showing his affection for her and trying to like convince her to kiss him, and that Han Solo like charm, but it's kind of doofy and goofy. So I kind of liked it. And if it was in the movie, like, am I going to be like, oh, this movie was just 2 minutes too long? The 2.5 hours is cool, but 2 hours and 32 minutes, nah, man. So I dug it, and I wouldn't have had a problem if it was in the movie. And I like the potential nod to Indiana Jones, being that there were snakes in the barrel and he didn't want to jump in initially.
Yeah, that's clever. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I still stand by it as far as the length. I think that directors are always trying to they have thousands of scenes that they could shoot, and then they go, well, I've got to fit it into 2 hours. So what is the shortest possible maximization of story that I can put into this movie? And if any scene if you don't actually gain like a significant amount of story from it or importance to the characters, and I think everything that's in that scene is being chased, getting to know Han and Kira and their relationship, and so those types of things, and maybe some like a closer look at the Corellian dogs, the Hellhounds, is that what they're called?
Yeah, I don't know if they were. Yeah, was that what they were called? Yeah,
maybe. But the closer look at those things, it was kind of cool. But it's like, it's not important to the movie. Like, nobody's gonna be like, dude, we got a closer look at those thing, you know. So I think that's why they cut it. What about the marketing? Why these two scenes? Because the train heist to me makes perfect sense. They go, maybe you missed the movie. It's a Western. It's really good. This is like a flagship scene. Here you go. The other one, that kind of surprises me. Although I kind of understand it. I just want to hear your thoughts on why they maybe would have released the twist, if you will, to this movie.
The twist. The M. Night Shyamalan part of the Solo film. Shyamalan, yeah. Well, first I have to say, I consider the release of the deleted scene part of the marketing, because it was sent into USA Today to put out there. And kudos to Clayton Sandell, who on our podcast a few weeks ago said the marketing of this movie is going to focus more on the romance between Han and Kira. And the first thing we see them put out video-wise of something we haven't seen yet is, boom, them in a barrel together with their romance. So Clayton nailed it. So very cool. Thanks again to him. But yeah, the train, like you say, the Convex is just a very cool scene, masterfully done, high action, just ILM and Skywalker sound just puffing their chest, being like, look what we can do. Boom. The mall thing, I understand why they put it out, because most people already know what happened because of the internet. And also, you want to get more people to buy this movie or rent this movie, DVR this movie, whatever. And if they weren't into it for Solo itself as it initially was marketed, maybe Darth Maul fans out there would be like, oh, that's awesome. I didn't know he was in this movie. I got to check this out. Because they're not saying this is Darth Maul's only scene in the movie. They're just showing you this scene. And it's like, wow, Darth Maul's in this movie? That's kind of awesome. Now I'm going to check it out. Whereas if you just hit it and left it, those people who hadn't seen it before may not see it anyway. So to me, I get it. And I don't think it's that big of a deal that they released that. Because again, with the internet today, I feel like most people knew that.
Yeah. And in my opinion, there's two sides of the story. The reason I'm surprised is because it's obvious. That's the twist in the movie. That's the big thing that they were trying to hold on to and trying to keep secret as long as they could. When that came out, You know, like as soon as the movie comes out, that's the big spoiler that you don't want to tell anybody. Like, you got to go see this movie because there's a scene in it that's going to connect and it's going to be really cool. The thing is that I'm well aware, though, that it being Darth Maul doesn't really change the movie. Like, if that would have been Jabba at the end, that would have been cool too. But it doesn't, it's not imperative. It's not a plot twist. Let's put it that way. Like Kira turning on Han kind of at the end, or doing what she does. I don't want to say turning because she's kind of also protecting him. You could look at it different views. Doing that is kind of the plot twist, but it being Darth Maul isn't really that crazy. Why I think it's important for the marketing is the same reason that they showed Hulk in the Thor Ragnarok trailers. I get it. If you didn't see any of the trailers and you went into that movie, that would have been probably the best part of that movie. You would have laughed out loud and you would have walked out of the theater saying, I loved that. I thought it was going to be somebody different. And when it breaks through and it's Hulk, such a big connection, such a big surprise. But they showed that in the trailer. So I feel like that was kind of ruined for me. And I don't know why they did that. Well, the reason they did it is they have to do it. They have to market that movie with Hulk in it. Because that's it. It makes so much sense that if they tried to hide the fact that Hulk and Mark Ruffalo and it was going to be Thor and Hulk teaming up in that movie, it's like, I don't know, just such a stupid move. They would have lost so much money just on people being like, well, I didn't know what it was. You know, it's like,
and we're back to Marvel
Thor
again.
Team up movie. So
here we are.
What?
We're back to Marvel again. Here we are.
Hey man, it's like the #1 franchise, so we got to pay attention to it.
Number 2.
But the thing is yeah. So I understand both aspects of it. I do think it's kind of crazy because it's like the final scene of the movie. But speaking of scenes that may or may not have made it into the movie, we got the novelization out.
Boom.
Solo, A Star Wars Story. It came out. The book was written by Mur Lafferty, and have you read it yet?
I'll say sort of. I got all the spoilers and everything I need. I didn't go cover to back. I didn't have time. I had a baby. A lot of running around, a lot of diaper changings. No excuses, John. Read the book. Okay, man. Next time. But yeah, a lot of spoilers. I got all the info I need to help enhance my viewing of the movie, and that's most important to me. But so I'll say I got the info. I got it all.
All right. So I did finish the book. I read the book and finished it. Just leading up to us recording the podcast too. I think the book is great. I actually think it's probably one of the best written adaptation books. You kind of can't give the author full credit of the story because it's kind of an adaptation, but but I think they do a really good job, and I can picture it, and it was really easy to get through, which meant like I was never like confused on like, wait, where am I at in the movie? Oh, okay, now he's talking about this. Like they always seem to make it work very well. And for anybody who has not read the book or is interested in reading the book, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that are in the book that might be, I guess it's not a spoiler. It's a spoiler for people who want to read the book and who want to know what extra scenes there are. There's nothing revealing in the sense of like, I don't know, something crazy. Like it doesn't ruin the story. It's just kind of like these little extras.
If you have your solo cake at home, we took the cake, we cut it open, and we're showing you what's inside the cake. Now, if you want to see what's inside the cake, then here you go.
Yeah. So as I was going through the book, I made a short list of all of the scenes that were not in the movie, but I didn't put things that were like deeper dives or longer extended. I put anything that seemed like it could have been a scene in a deleted scene, like something that like went longer. So maybe not extended scenes necessarily, but deleted scenes. So I got, we get Han stealing a car at the very beginning. We get the hiding in the eel tank. thing, which we know is going to be a deleted scene because we've already seen
Right.
it. We got a scene
Why did it
with
have
a
to be
character.
eels, James?
What?
Why did it have to be eels?
Why did it have to be eels? Yeah. We got a scene with a character called Captain Wayne, and he's talking to a Brug about Han being in the academy and why he's so terrible and stuff. We also got Han crashing a TIE fighter. And then right after that, he gets kicked out of the flight academy and sent to Minbin by his Commodore. And there's a fun exchange there. We got Val and Beckett having a conversation about trusting Han and Chewie, and that's at night when they're together. We got Val having flashbacks on the tracks. A couple scenes of her and Beckett from a long time ago, and Rio as well. We got now this is where it gets weird. We got a new Chewie shower scene.
Yeah.
So
right.
he takes a shower with Han, and we hear that in the book, and we see that in the movie. But then he also complains about the dirt under his fur, and Lando says, "You can use my shower, but please don't use my personal products. They've really expensive conditioner and stuff." And he goes in there and he like wrecks the bathroom with there's hair everywhere. There's like conditioner on the mirror and stuff like that. So
clogs everything. Plumbing
he does.
problems.
Yeah, it clogs up the drain is
Yeah.
what Lando says.
Yeah.
We have now there's a lot here. So Kira being captured. That goes back to right after Han and Kira were split on Corellia.
Right.
Talked a little bit about her going back and talking with Lady Proxima and stuff like that. Longer L3 conversation about Han and Dryden. So this is all part of her when she's having that conversation about Lando and what are you going to do about your problem? So they actually go into more about Dryden, Voss, and some details in there too. So I would kind of consider that like an extended scene. We get a ton of information on Terras Kasi. There's multiple times in the book that they go back to explain how this fighting style works, why it was important to Dryden Voss. And we actually, and I think the fact of the book for me, which was really interesting, is that it says that Dryden Voss learned it directly from Darth Maul, which I think is really crazy to picture a scenario where those two are like working together and training together. That blows my mind.
With the important part being that it is not learning the Force, just heightening your senses as a non-Force user.
You know, I think there's some debate there. I think that heightening your senses as a non-Force user, I mean, in the world where the Force exists, I think that's kind of...
Chirrut Imwe was not a Force user, but he was one with the Force, and the Force was with him.
Yeah, there's some debate about it. Obviously, I think that people are interested in checking it out. So go read for yourself. L3 within the Falcon, lots of conversations with her talking with the other droids and kind of a retrospect of like, oh, now I'm inside the Falcon and I'm stuck here. And now I'm what am I looking for? Subservient? Yeah, there we go. To the man. And we also got an extra scene with L3 being able to talk to Lando after she was put in the Falcon and post Lando leaving Savareen. They kind of have a farewell to each other.
I hate all of that.
How they're like in a relationship.
No,
sort of.
I hate that the Falcon, like, just...
that the Falcon...
My headcanon is that they just ripped out her GPS and plugged it into the Falcon. It's not a thinking being, like... I see it as a computer.
A thinking being anymore. So it took what would you say that was? Like couple hours, less than a day. And she was like melded with the ship. So
yeah.
So it wasn't too terrible. I think they just kind of wanted to give them a sending off. Now, the scene that is additional in this book that I think everybody cares the most about is the final chapter in this book. And I almost don't even want to spoil it, but I'm pretty sure everybody's probably heard this. Enfys Nest has the coaxium, and she is going to take it to the rebellion. The person she takes it to is Saw Gerrera, and Saw Gerrera brings his ward with him, who happens to be an 11-year-old girl named Jyn Erso. So we get a conversation between Enfys Nest and Saw, and we get a conversation between Enfys Nest and Jyn Erso. And it almost isn't even necessary to the solo story. I think they just wanted the connection there, but it's good. It makes you feel satisfied for having gotten through the book. I think you close the book thinking, wow, like that was another adventure where all of this stuff is connected. The whole story is important because it connects to the larger thing. Han helped save the rebellion. He helped save the dream.
Yeah. Well, you crossed off most of the things I was going to mention, but one thing a couple things that I want to add here, I guess, being that we get confirmation that Kira was sold by Proxima to slavers and then eventually found her way to Dryden Voss, who treated her awfully, as we assumed, and probably good they didn't put it in the movie because it wouldn't have felt very Star Warsy or family friendly. But that Chewie did not eat human prisoners, that those were just bones that were in there in that pit, and that he was potentially going to eat Han out of desperation because they had been starving him. So Han may have been his first feast, potentially. And then also, like you were saying about the Teräs Käsi thing, we can have a debate about that, but I don't see Kira as Force sensitive, and I think they pretty much confirm that, and they tell us pretty much that Dryden Voss taught her how to use that style as well. So
yes.
And I believe it also, correct me if I'm wrong, she sensed the creature in the Maelstrom before everyone else.
Kira?
I believe, yeah. I believe Kyle pointed that out in his review, so I have to go with that.
Yeah, not positive. As I finished the book right before we recorded the podcast, I've yet to read his spoiler review because I just didn't want to give anything away. I am going to go back and reread that just because I have a feeling like anybody would point out things that you maybe didn't notice. We've all walked out of a Star Wars movie and go, "Oh, did you see Chopper?" You know?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I didn't see that.
I miss all that every time the first time I see things. I'm just so locked into the fun of it. And then also that Kira didn't know who Maul was, and that transmission of her on the yacht seeing him was the first time she saw him. Very interesting. Very interesting stuff.
I kind of have a little bit to say about this because my friend at work who did read the spoiler review mentioned that to me, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you've seen the movie. They clearly know each other. And it's funny because, like, probably about an hour after we had that conversation, that scene was released. So, but I definitely get a vibe that they did know each other. And then I read the book, and the book kind of implies maybe that they hadn't. But I went back and rewatched the scene again with the idea that they hadn't seen each other. And there's only one thing in there that really makes me think they have, but I don't know, it's kind of a stretch. It's just that he refers to her as Kira. Right. He may very well have known all about her through Dryden Voss. Maybe even boasting like I have my own, underlings, and he could easily have, Maul could have said, I want to know everything about how you're running your operation, Voss, so I need to know who your commander is, and that sort of thing. So he may have known her name and all of that stuff without necessarily have ever met her or spoken with her before. It's possible. I don't know. I still kind of get this vibe though. Like, cause I'll tell you this, when re-listening to the book too, I very well think that Beckett knows Maul because Dryden Voss and Beckett have a conversation where he says, Beckett, you know who I work for, and you know he's not going to like or how he's going to take this news, kind of a thing. And so it doesn't even register in my head. Why wouldn't Kira know who Maul is? Like, is Maul that secretive? Well, I guess it makes sense that maybe Kira never went over and put the coin in the thing.
She probably
to call
was never
him.
able to. Yeah,
I get that. But at the same time, you don't think she's never been in a room or a situation where he would be around. She also says so many things in the movie. She's like, I don't know everything, but I know a little more than you. I know who would come after you. She's now essentially the leader of Crimson Dawn, but she still tries to get Han to go away because she's afraid that the person who's above her is going to come follow Han and kill him. But she's never met that person, or she doesn't know anything about that person. I don't know. It just seems weird to me.
She could have known his name and everything about him, but never met him or seen him.
I guess, yeah.
Which would explain why
I would
he
like to
likes,
know what a story group member says about that. You know what I mean? Because I think the movie implies that they've met, but the book kind of implies that they haven't.
You should ask Sam Witwer.
Yeah. Although I don't think he would necessarily know. I think he might know. But I don't think
it would explain why they had him light the lightsaber, because it's kind of like she knows, she may have heard about him and that he's the head honcho, but that he fires up that lightsaber and she's like, oh my God, like this guy is way more intimidating than I ever could have imagined.
Well, I can tell you this, the book heavily implies that she's unaware that he has a lightsaber. Like, she doesn't know what it is. She sees it. She says there's a piece of metal that flies into his hand, and then the fire comes out of the side or whatever, and she goes, it's almost, she's thinking in her head, it's almost as if he has two lightsabers with the hilts back to back or whatever.
Either way, it's cool stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely a good read. If you haven't read it yet, I think it's one of the stories that's worth it. I kind of feel like Rogue One, I got lost a little bit, and I feel like Last Jedi got lost a little bit. Force Awakens I thought was really good, though.
Last Jedi took me for a ride, dude. That was a little too... It danced around a little too much and got away from its core a little too much for me.
Yeah, but I think it was funny, actually, because I had a scenario where I was thinking, like, so I was watching Solo, and then I was like, wait a minute, how was I watching Solo? I don't own Solo. It's not out yet. Oh, that's right.
So good.
I was reading the book. Yeah. I just pictured the scene so well in my head, that way that it was written, that I felt like I was watching the movie. All right, man.
Well, also, what's his name does so good on those audiobooks, too, that we were talking about.
Oh, Mark Thompson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guy nails it, man. Before the recording of this podcast, I was showing John a couple of the clips of him doing Woody Harrelson's Beckett, and it's just like,
so good.
It's so weird. He like adds these like southern rumbling growl to the voice, just because that's kind of how he draws his voice a little. I don't know. It's just at times I thought that they got Woody Harrelson to do the voice. I was like, they had to have. There's no way this dude definitely nails it, all these voices so well.
Like Steven Stanton does. Like, he could definitely do ADR for Star Wars actors if they need him to punch a line in or two. Like, he's great.
It's possible, yeah. All right, man. Well, those are the stories for the past 2 weeks.
Whew.
And there were a couple other things that happened that aren't necessarily discussion worthy, so we're going to send them over to you so you can send us on the Scoundrels Rundown.
Yeah, James, speaking of 2 weeks, we are 2 weeks away from the release of Solo on Blu-ray. Not digital, Blu-ray. And here I am hoping that the play button is followed by Han Solo saying these two famous words. Punch it! Speaking of Blu-rays, The Last Jedi has passed Black Panther as the current highest-selling Blu-ray of 2018, and we say current because 2018 isn't over, of course. This isn't surprising news, as even fans who don't love the movie can't help but buy it, so they don't leave a gaping hole in their neatly chronological Star Wars home video movie display. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy is the first woman to receive the Irving G. Thalberg Memorial Award at the Academy Awards. Kennedy will be honored for her career achievements as the award honors, quote, creative producers whose bodies of work reflect a consistently high quality of motion picture production, end quote. And reading that, I can't think of anyone who has the type of resume that Kennedy has who was more deserving of that honor. Whenever she decides to hang it up, she will go down as having one of the most accomplished careers in movie history. So congrats, Kathleen Kennedy. Our final story in the rundown, Rian Johnson confirms once more that he is still making his Star Wars trilogy, smacking down another set of rumors that run wild on the internet. Perhaps we can all stop swirling these stories about this trilogy cancellation around take after the Jedi and simply practice patience. Until we start hearing more about Johnson's upcoming films, we can assume that it's going down. For articles on all of our news stories today, head to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day. That is the Scoundrels Rundown for this week, so let's open up the vault and find out which of your questions we'll be answering today in hashtag AskTheResistance. Chewie, get us out of here.
All right, John, we got 4 questions coming in from the Twitterverse. They hit us up by saying hashtag AskTheResistance, and they wanted to throw us a couple questions. You ready to answer a couple of them?
Let's do this, man.
Are you mentally prepared for some of these questions? 'Cause some of these are tricky.
Yeah, I think I'm ready. I hope I don't change my mind last second and then fumble over my words, but I think I'm ready to do this.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Haley Meyer at Shapely_Buns, one of my favorite Twitter names, asked, what do you guys think is the most underrated scene from the movies or TV shows? Throwing to you, John. What do you think?
Okay. I thought about this for a while, and I had to go to my favorite movie, The Empire Strikes Back, and it's Han Solo being tortured in The Empire Strikes Back, which was used by Vader and company simply to lure Luke to Cloud City, and that subtle line when they bring him back in after torturing the hell out of him, and Leia says, why are they doing this? And Han just says, they didn't even ask me any questions, which immediately, subtly and quickly, brilliantly written, tells the audience that they weren't interrogating him for any reason. So there was another motive to why they were doing it. So I absolutely love that. Perfect, quick storytelling, sharp, bright. Absolutely love it. And also, of course, showing Chewie's compassion and care for him being all beaten up and destroyed. And I feel terrible in that whole thing. One of my favorite scenes, underrated scene. It tells a lot in a very short period of time. Big fan. So that's my pick for underrated scene.
Yep. And I'm glad you gave it too, because I knew you were going to do... I knew you were going to have a good pick, but my main thing was that you were going to probably pick from a movie. So I tried to do the TV show aspect of it. And it's hard because when you think of underrated stuff, I think of every scene in the movie and I go, who doesn't appreciate that scene? You know what I mean? It's difficult because those movies are so cataloged. So I tried looking at the TV shows, and it's still tricky too because like some of my favorite stuff is all highly rated. You know what I mean? Like Mortis, that's not underrated. Darth Maul stuff, Mandalore, all that stuff, that's not underrated. So I tried to look for something that when I watched the Clone Wars to begin with, there was a specific arc with Tarkin and how he was being held prisoner in a place called the Citadel. And they had to break into this place and they had to get him out. And there's a lot that happens in there. In fact, even some Jedi die along the way. Ahsoka and Tarkin have a lot of communication back and forth. That there's like, do we trust this guy? Do we not? And then he's kind of like a good guy. Like they kind of treat him as a good character in those episodes. And it's like, whatever, you're like, okay, I see the connective tissue. But then later, everything that they've done that has Tarkin in it, it seems later in the canon, after all those shows were done, that storyline is really important to his character. He always is thinking about what happened at the Citadel and why that's important. And it really makes his character who he is. I think that around that time was the time that he made the choice that he was going to do what needed to be done in order to become who he needed to become. So if you want to go back and give those episodes a watch, I think that they're really important to a very strong character in Star Wars lore, which is Tarkin, Grand Moff Tarkin, and people just kind of gloss over. Right? Yeah, voiced by Steven Stanton. Yeah, so let's move on to the next one. Scott Gibson Scott Gibby. He says, "Do you think The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi would have benefited more from explaining the political environment better? In my experience," he talks to fans casually, and they always don't seem to know that the New Republic was demilitarized. That's one of the big main points in his opinion. So, John, what do you think about this? Do you think that maybe the politics aren't really cutting through on those movies?
So he's saying, do we think they should do more of the politics in the sequel trilogy? And I'm going to say no. For many reasons. One, we're going to get into part of my reasoning on Thursday. We're going to have a discussion about character development in this trilogy. But I'm going to say no because I never, ever saw the political aspect as a forefront for Star Wars when Star Wars is done right. And I never saw it literally until Lucas made it important as a forefront element in the prequels. To me, these stories aren't about politics. These are about these central characters and their journey within this environment. So it's character first, environment later. And as long as we get the idea of what's happening in the climate, that's enough for me. I don't need Senate, and I don't need politics in Star Wars for it to be Star Wars to me. That isn't the core of what Star Wars is to me, and that's my opinion. That's why part of the prequel thing misfired for me. I think they could have touched on it and kept it in the background more than the driving force of the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and so on. So no, I hope they do not beef that up, and I don't think they need to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I think I kind of agree with Scott here a little bit. I still love the movies and I think they are what they are, but I do understand that some people are missing a little bit of the backbone. And I feel like you're absolutely right. Like Star Wars as a whole is the story of Luke Skywalker and then his dad and the connection there and all that stuff. But at the core of it, I think when you think about the structure that is that movie, the scene is very fleshed out. There was this big empire and there was this group of people who were trying to take down the empire. And I think that's the challenge of the sequel trilogy. How do you come in and try to tell a story? It's like, and then 30 years later, everything fell apart again. Like that, it's kind of a weird scenario to even be put in the first place. So I think they're doing as best they can with that story. But at the same time, I think that is something that's kind of missing. I feel like people go, wait, what's going on? Who are the First Order and where do they come from? Why do they look like the Empire? I think Force Awakens just kind of says like, well, you don't really need to know that. You can read that stuff like in books. We'll tell those stories later. Wait,
that's what the crawl's for, man.
I know, but it just says that they're. I don't know. I mean, I agree.
Like, do you want to see Episode 9? Like, and now we're gonna go to Hazian Prime 6, which is survived the attack from the First Order, and I vote on the trade of this and blah. Like, no.
I want the story. I want the politics to make sense. Like, for instance, it doesn't make sense that the whole galaxy doesn't seem to have any firearms. Like, if all of the United States was wiped out, there's still other countries with military. Like, they can still fight these aliens. If you put,
but
if you
dude,
this is
a space. This is a space fantasy. We're not trying to do a metaphor for Earth politics here. We're a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Like, we don't need to explain everything. We don't need to explain gravity of these bombs and stuff like that. So that's where I differ with. I think you have a more of a literal. You want a literal explanation type of thing, and I get that, but to me, I'm just going on the ride.
Yeah, I agree with you up until a certain point. Like if there's continuity, or if like the story just doesn't make sense, then you have a problem. Like if the story of Force Awakens was like just a dude shows up and he's just one guy and he says like, I'm going to take over. And then everybody's like, I guess he just took over. So here's all of our weapons. Like you'd be like, what? Why? Why are they giving up their weapons? This doesn't make any sense. And you're like, well, that stuff doesn't matter. It's all about the Force, and it's really about these two characters. But it's like, but why is why is the story even happening if the politics aren't important, right? Like you got to understand that there's
yeah, I guess we can have a Star Wars war about this.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I mean, these stories to me are about the people and the characters.
They
and
absolutely are, but you have to have a setting that makes sense.
But you have 6 hours to tell it, right? And we're already talking about how some characters are underdeveloped, and we're going to get to that Thursday again. If you spend chunks of this time trying to drive home the political reason why the First Order rose to power, you are wasting valuable time developing these characters to care about them.
I guess we'll have a Star Wars war. I just think it's important. Like, I don't know. It's like important to say like this is Bob, and Bob lives in a house, and then like in the sequel, you're like, oh, he just doesn't have this house anymore. Like it's like, well, where'd the house go? Like, there's at least some.
I don't know if I
part
like
of the
that
story
analogy.
that you have to like explain or make sense before the rest of the things can fall into place.
Who's Bob?
Remember, it's Star Wars. It's not Star character development.
Oh, stop it.
I'm just
Jeez
teasing
Louise.
you. Let's move on to the next question, and maybe we can talk about that at another later date.
Yeah, we should. We should.
All right. Kevin at KSH Recordist says, do you think only Jedi can see Force ghosts on the big screen? That's the only people they appear to. So I hadn't really ever thought of this. I mean, I probably have at some point, but it is true that it seems like the only people who they appear in front of and can be seen is in front of like a Jedi or someone who's like one with the Force. And I think the biggest telling part of this is that Han seems to ride right through Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Leia doesn't seem to notice at all that there's like 3 ghost people that Luke's looking at. She just seems to like pull him back to the party. And he's like, you don't see these 3 guys over here? So I think those are the 2 main things that I could think of where there's like an interaction where it seems like maybe the other person could have seen but didn't. But I have an answer, but I want to hear your side of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I say yes. That's the simple answer to me. Unless, like you're saying, Leia is the most relaxed person ever, and the first time she ever saw a ghost, she's just like, oh, that's cool. Like, we'll be over here at the bonfire when you're done talking to those ghosts. Come on over. So yeah, I think it's tighter and easier to hone it to where only Jedi can see and interact with Force ghosts. Otherwise, if they're just interacting with anybody, it's I think it gets a little wild and crazy, and it would probably drive you nuts too because you already hate Force ghosts as it is. So I'm gonna say, for the sake of sanity, and also we're up against time here, I'm just gonna say yes. Jedi only with the Force ghosts.
I say no. I say that Force ghosts could appear to whoever they want to appear to, especially since we have Yoda interacting with a tree. Like, he's doing something in the Force that causes something in the physical world to happen. So you're trying to tell me that it's not possible for a Force ghost to then interact with a person to the extent of sight? Like, he could hit Leia over the head, but Leia wouldn't be able to see him. I don't know. I think it's weird. I definitely think that if a Force ghost wanted to interact with someone, there's no like restriction there. I think they could show up and be like, yo, this is the Force. I am the Force. You can't explain it, but here I am. But that's
so just pop into like a market somewhere.
I don't think that we've barely even seen. They only just recently learned this technique, like, you know, a few years ago, where most of the Force ghosts are used. So I don't think they've ever really got to a point where they needed to show up to anybody else other than the important Jedi currently in the galaxy.
Do Force ghosts talk politics?
No, they don't care.
Okay, neither do I.
And I'm not saying that. That comes from a novel where they just kind of like the physical stuff, that world. They don't even really want to turn. They don't want to go back. Sometimes they do though, but it's just like they don't really care about what's going on. That's kind of Lucasfilm's way to kind of write it out and say like this is why they don't like come back and continue fighting the war. Last question. Let's knock it out real quick. Kylo Ren versus Mask at @versus_Ren says, who is your favorite very minor character in all of the Star Wars? Mine has to be Captain 5 bloody minutes ago, Kennedy, the First Order guy from the beginning of The Last Jedi.
Yes.
He steals the scene in everyone he's in.
That's a great answer, man. I love that guy. I was kind of pissed that they killed him off. I do feel like he just killed it, and I thought he could have even been better than Hux if they really wanted to ramp him up for Episode 9 if they kept him around. But mine, I'm gonna say obviously Salacious Crumb.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guy. Very minor character, but makes me happy, and I love it. What about you?
Took a lot of thought, man. I think that the Crimson Corsair, the Blood Buccaneer, the Red Raider guy, in the back of Maz's castle, I think he was kind of a cool character that like I noticed right away, and it ended up that they wrote a story about him, and actually a few stories about him, because I think a lot of people felt the same way. They're like, who's that guy in the background? And he doesn't say anything in the movie, or maybe he has like one line, but it's like in alien language. And then the other one too, same thing, is Bazine Natal. Like I thought that character looked really cool, and they gave her a speaking line. She has an important, I don't want to say important role, but she's there. And she's not really like a major character by any means, but she was one of the first characters. I don't know, man. I'm trying to pick out like random background characters, and I'm like, Ponda Baba. Do I care about Ponda Baba? No. Like, there's no one in the
you don't care about his arm on the floor, even though he didn't do any of the shit talking.
There's no one in the cantina that I'm like, I think that character looks really cool, and I want to learn more about him. And then it turns out there is like this really cool story about him. I don't know, maybe in Legends, but like nothing really in canon that is like interesting to me. If I gave it more thought, there might be some characters in Canto Bight, because they got their own little stories and stuff. But I don't think anybody like really popped out to me like I did when we walked into Maz's castle. There's like a number of little creatures and stuff in there that I was like, oh, that's cool. But like specifically that dude with the red mask, and then there's I don't know his name. I can't think of it right now, but he's the big dude that Nadine's sitting on. Like, I think you just like look at that dude and you're like, what's his story? Mm-hmm. So that's my answer. I kind of gave 2. Yeah.
All right. So is that it?
Those are all the questions, man. We are done with Ask the Resistance. If you guys want to send a question over, get on Instagram and hit us up, or get on Twitter and hit us up. All you got to do is write anything you want, tweet it out to the world. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you include #AskTheResistance so that we can search for that hashtag and find all the questions that are coming to us. And you might end up on the show like the last 4 people did. And we're really glad when we get questions, because it really causes us to think outside of the box. So please continue to send them in. We love answering them. And I still want to do some sort of like longer, full-on Ask the Resistance program where we can just answer fan questions all day, because that's the best stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes they even spark our discussions, and as we said, maybe even a Star Wars war or 2. But yeah, one of my favorite parts of the show. I love your questions. Keep those coming. We really appreciate it. So thank you very much. And speaking of being at the end, we are approaching the end of the show here. But first, we just want to remind you to make sure you're subscribed to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. Again, we're still running the Rate the Resistance promotion. #Rate the Resistance. If you are an iPhone iTunes user, hop on to our iTunes account, rate us 5 stars, leave a review, and just send us a screenshot of your review. It takes about a minute. and just put hashtag Rate the Resistance, and you'll be entered to win one of our t-shirts for free. And we have about 30 to 35 different designs or so, and you'll be able to pick
40.
one of your choice. 40 designs. It's out of control. Maybe 39 now. But anyway, make sure you're subscribed to us either way, and also SoundCloud and, of course, YouTube. We got some exciting stuff in the pipeline for you guys. For all of your latest news, reviews, editorials, information, and more, head to our site, StarWarsNewsNet.com, every day. Again, next week, Lacey will be back with us. You can find her for now on Twitter at Lacey Gillerin. You can find me, John Hoey, on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and writing and editing and all that stuff over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. James, how about you, bud?
Well, if you caught me in the last week, you can find me cramming the heck out of Solo, the novelization.
Where can they find you doing that?
Real bad.
Where are they going to find you doing that? In your car?
They can find me on Twitter. Yes, you can find me in my car listening to the audiobook. Reading the book in my car while driving on the highway.
While driving.
No, but if you want to reach out to me, hit me up on Twitter at MyraTrunks, MIRAHTRUNKS. And hey, go see the new Dragon Ball movie that's coming out soon. Broly is back. If you haven't heard, Broly is back.
Wow. We'll all tune into that. Make sure you guys do tune into us on Thursday, as James and I will get into a lengthy discussion where we actually may be on the same side for a rare occasion of late, where we're going to talk about character development in this sequel trilogy beyond Rey and Kylo Ren, and the ramifications of the focus on Rey and Kylo Ren, how they may have hindered the other focal characters in the trilogy. So we'll get into that, but in the meantime, do all this stuff, subscribe, all that good stuff. Enjoy your week, and we will see you in a few days right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.